I'd be disappointed if it did. Now it's our turn.
If you are a fan of stylish, over-the-top hacko-slasho type of games, it is pretty obvious why you clicked on this video. Fortunately for you, it is not clickbait. If you never heard about Soulstice before, you will be happy that you do now. Everything about this game feels really familiar. It's like playing a weird mix of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta and maybe a bit of Nier as well. If you love those games, Soulstice will be right up your alley.
If we survive, we might find the answers. Now let's focus on destroying these things.
So, you can of course just blandly call it a clone, but even if you do decide to do so, it's a damn good and successful one. Besides, this game does a lot of stuff in its own unique style. Well, let's say some things.
I say this is our chance to prove ourselves. We can't waste it.
First of all, the story. There is really not much to be said here. Typical scenario of a confrontation between good and evil. In a world where a cycle of life and death has been created and souls can be reborn as humans again, you fight against the powers of chaos. Spiritual creatures called Wraiths, who invade our world from beyond the veil, possess humans and turn them into unspeakable monstrosities. You take control of Briar, a chimera warrior of the Holy Kingdom. Looking at the design of the main character is mainly where I got the Nier reference from, very similar style. Although considering the chimera thing, if you watched the anime Claymore, I'm pretty sure this is where some of the inspiration came from as well. In this game you are also accompanied by the spirits of your younger sister Lute, because in this game chimeras are actually beings who have been reborn with 2 souls instead of 1. And that also gives them badass abilities, allows them to transform and so on. Okay, fine, this makes this game also a bit like Beyond Two Souls, then I guess. Are we happy now? But seriously now, I should probably also mention that Briar is voiced by Stephanie Jewston, none other than the voice of Quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5. And the whole 5 or so voice lines she actually spoke in this game. I mean, I think people were more interested in the fact that her body was used for the motion capture anyway. But back to Soulstice. Those 2, or should I say 1, chimera arrive at the city of Ilden. Yes, where the Ilden Ring was created. Okay, I'm sorry, at the city of Ilden, where a huge tear appeared. You have to find out why and close it obviously, before too many wraiths come through and... actually they already killed everyone. But let's still close it anyway. So our job obviously involves a lot of hacking and slashing. As for the gameplay, as I already mentioned, everything about this game feels familiar. Even the opening sequence is exactly the same as in Bayonetta 2. Well, almost exactly the same. There are no mechas in this game, at least I haven't seen any. And then once the actual game starts, everything from the way the camera moves and captures the surroundings, the way your character moves, is able to jump ridiculously high. There is also a double jump, obviously. All cool games need to have a double jump. The fact that you get red crystals from breaking objects and defeating enemies and then use them to upgrade your stuff, and green crystals to heal yourself. The combat, however, really strives with some innovative ideas. Since you play as Briar and Lute, that also means that you control 2 characters at the same time. Briar can use a variety of weapons. There is the usual light and heavy attack, except that the buttons are switched for some reason. Light attack is on the Y button and heavy attack is on the X. And there is also a dodge on the left shoulder button. Lute will attack and weaken enemies on her own from time to time, it depends on the skills you unlock for her. She has, however, the ability to shield you from the most damage if you tap the counter button with the right timing. There will be prompts above enemy heads when you are about to be attacked and... fine, I'll do it. That makes the game also a bit like the Batman Arkham series. If the timing is right, ranged attacks will be deflected and melee attacks will be shielded against. Sometimes she will even freeze or stop the enemies for a short while. The best thing is that the prompts also appear for enemies off-screen. That means you don't really need to see them to counter their attacks. You can, however, also spin the camera with the right analog stick in combat, and also tap it to lock onto enemies. See, this is exactly what I mean. This game is totally like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, but it also adapts elements from tons of other games and that way creates its own, very tasty and stylish mix. But we are not done yet, by far. There are also those challenge portals hidden throughout the game.
Loot. What is this place?
I don't know. It seems like we crossed the veil this time.
Complete the challenge with its conditions, like for example kill the enemies in a specific time limit and get a nice bonus. A crystal shard. Collect 3 of them and increase your max health. Seems familiar? Good. Of course, this game wouldn't deserve to be called a good clone if there wasn't also a style point system. It is displayed after every fight and also at the end of the mission. So obviously, if you are a perfectionist, you will want to replay levels and get the perfect diamond score everywhere. The replay value is really high. Then there is also this rude fella.
While all life must perish, that which is immortal is bound to be reborn. But the Shaper had no hand in your creation.
Here you will be able to buy items and also new abilities for Briar and loot. How about this one? Forward, forward, Y. Pretty much the stinger from Devil May Cry. Of course, there are also skills that throw your enemies into the air, so you can perform aerial juggle combos and all that. The combat system is as much DMC as you could possibly make it. Then there is, however, the Unity level, and that's something new. The icon at the top right corner represents how well both characters work together in combat. That means that you have to be good with both Briar's offensive and Loot's defensive skills. And once you reach max Unity level, not only the abilities of both characters will be more powerful, but you will also be able to unleash powerful synergy attacks at the end of certain combos. Some of the bigger, tougher enemies you encounter have a shield and cannot, for example, be thrown into the air until you break that armor. Those enemies' attacks cannot be stopped by loot, but can be interrupted so that it gives you enough time to dodge. Later you can of course unlock all kinds of upgrades to make Loot's defensive and offensive skills much more badass, like blocking bigger enemies for example. Another very positive thing about this game is that they also implemented some nice mechanics outside of combat, so that just walking from Slaughter Feast A to Slaughter Feast B is not completely boring and exploration makes a bit more sense. Sometimes you will see blue crystals in the air. To make those vulnerable, you have to activate the evocation field and quickly destroy them before Loot's ability overcharges and she loses control of it. If that happens, she will not be available for a period of time. Those blue crystals are also used to upgrade Loot's abilities, so you definitely need them. The evocation fields can also be used to find platforming elements and so-called echoes. It's kinda like spiritual traces of happened events.
Never seen the knights acting like this before.
Me neither. Whatever's in there must be really valuable.
You try to steal it then. I'm staying here. Whatever it is, it feels like the judge's breath on my neck.
This is mainly to add to the storytelling and lore. That way you get a better understanding of what is going on. And then there are also red crystals. That is basically the corruption leaking through the tear and infecting our world. Sometimes those crystals block passageways, and sometimes they are just there to give you some more upgrade currency. To make those vulnerable, you need to activate the banishment field. Same idea here, do enough damage before loot gets overcharged and loses control. It's not very hard because the overload meter goes down with every successful hit, so basically you just spam combos, but it's nice to have some gameplay variety. But I'm pretty sure you can guess what's coming next. You guessed it, enemies that can only be damaged while a field is active, like the race. Over time, as you meet more and more different enemies, the combat does get more and more challenging, how it should be. So in case you're thinking, nah, there are attack indicators, loot can block pretty much anything, no. By far no. Loot can only block one attack at a time. If two enemies attack roughly at the same time, there will not even be a prompt for loot's abilities. Yes, she does help a lot, but the counter animation also costs time, so in other words you still have to pay attention and dodge manually. And also, as you progress and to get to fight whole hordes of enemies and the screen gets filled up with effects and shit, often it's really hard to follow and get what the heck is actually going on. So do not worry, this game is definitely not too easy.
Perhaps this will help? A new weapon. I believe you've earned it. The Order of the Ashen Blade rewards its servants.
Yes, fortunately, as we progress we get to unlock a lot of new weapons. This gauntlet here, for example, can be charged up for every hit. Just like in... yeah, you want me to say it? Just like in Devil May Cry. It is quite slow, but that way it can break armored enemies' shields really efficiently. And don't even get me started on bosses. Of course they have unblockable attacks, what did I expect? This yellow energy indicates that it's time to get the hell out of there. Will you stop swinging that shit already? How the heck am I supposed to dodge all of this? Be prepared to see this screen a lot, as it should be. This is the only way. Seriously, I have nothing bad to say about this game. Obviously it took some hardcore inspiration from Devil May Cry and co, and might very well deserve to be called a clone. But once again, it's a damn good one. The graphics are nice, the combat is fluent, fast-paced and has some innovative mechanics. The story is... well, it appears nothing special early on, but it's enough to get you interested. The thing is, there are not many games of that type nowadays, for whatever reason, and we have to appreciate gems like this one. So if you are a fan of Devil May Cry and co, be sure to check this one out. Recommended!